Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to talk about rubella. This is the third lecture on the infectious disease chapter, and this lecture is going to be in English, so majority of the people could understand it. So we are going to start this lecture by a bit of concept or a general overview of the disease. Rubella is also known as German measles or three-day measles. Why it's called three-day measles? Because almost everything is identical to measles except for the time that rubella is only occurring for 3 days, or you can say only symptomatic for 3 days. And measles is also called rubeola, not rubella. Don't confuse both of them. It's a member of torch infections. R in this torch infection is actually the representative of rubella. Rubella is very teratogenic infection, or you can say in fact the most teratogenic infection of them all. The inanthum or the inside rash inside the body is called Forshamer spot. In measles this is called Koplik spot. Exanthum is almost identical to measles. In fact they are both the same, you cannot differentiate both of them. The exanthum in measles is actually for longer duration of time, while on the other hand in rubella it's only occurring for 3 days. The reason why it's called three-day measles. Why it is so important? Rubella is very important, or you can say clinically very significant, not because of its symptoms or its infectiousness. It is important because of its causative organism. Toga virus has a tendency to inhibit the cell division. So if a mother catches rubella during the pregnancy and the baby is dividing, so because of those cell division inhibitions, it will lead to teratogenicity, or you can say congenital malformations of the baby. While on the other hand, measles has no congenital malformation tendency, and the treatment is usually supportive. Now we have talked about the general overview. Let's dig into the topic. As I told you before, that rubella is also called German measles or three-day measles. It's a member of torch infection. Agent is RNA virus called Toga virus. Incubation period is usually 15 to 20 days, and mode of transmission is like measles, it's also respiratory droplets. Surprisingly, the patient of rubella usually don't cough. No cough. No cough is present in clinical scenarios, or you can say clinical settings. You won't be able to find a cough in rubella infections. And in infectivity period is 10 days before to 2 days after the onset of rash. In measles the infectivity period was 4 days before and 4 days after the onset of rash, while on the other hand in rubella it is, you can say generally it is 1 week before and 1 week after the onset of rash. But in when we are going to talk about theoretics, we usually say 10 days and 2 weeks. So in exams they can give both values. They can give 1 week, or they can give 10 days, and they can give 1 week or 2 weeks. So just remember, when they are going to talk about 4 days, it is measles. When they are going to talk about 1 week, it is usually rubella. Prodromal illness is there is going to be a mild fever, malaise, and lymphadenopathy. Lymphadenopathy is characteristic and involves suboccipital, post-auricular, and post-cervical lymph nodes. So lymphadenopathy is very important in rubella. Exanthum is centrifugal in nature and it lasts only for 3 days. As I told you before, the reason why it's called three-day measles, because the rash is only present for 3 days. And centrifugal in a matter, the rash is going to start from head and then spread throughout the body. And in anthem, it's called Forshamer spots. In measles, it's called Koplik spot. What is the difference between Koplik spots and Forshamer spot? Forshamer spots I have talked about in the next slides. These are small petechial lesions on soft palate and uvula, suggestive. Remember, Koplik spots are diagnostic of measles, but in rubella they are only suggestive, not diagnostic. The difference between Koplik spot and Forshamer spots. Koplik spots is present on buccal mucosa, and in rubella the Forshamer spots are present on uvula or soft palate. So When you're going to talk about, this is the just an example, this is mouth, this is soft palate, hard palate, and behind that there is a uvula. So it is usually floor roof of the, you can say, oral cavity. But complex spots are present on buccal mucosa, which means the walls of that cavity. Got my point? Complex spots are present on the lateral walls of oral cavity, and rubella is present on roof of that oral cavity. Complex spots are white in nature. You can see here they are white spots surrounded by erythematous tissue, while rubella are petechial spots. They are red in color. Okay, so this is the difference between Koplik spot and Forshammer spots. Complications. Complications of rubella include thrombocytopenia, hepatitis, encephalitis, and congenital rubella syndrome. When congenital rubella syndrome is going to occur when the infection is when mother got this rubella infection during the pregnancy, and when the baby is born, it can lead to blueberry muffin syndrome. What is blueberry muffin rash and what is blueberry muffin syndrome, we are going to talk about in the next few slides. It's a member of torch infections, so it can lead to torch infections as well. Congenital rubella syndrome. Congenital rubella syndrome includes congenital deafness. This deafness is usually sensory neural in nature, and it is if during the exams they ask you what is the most common defect of rubella, you are going to mark sensory neural deafness. Sensory neural deafness, the most common defect caused by rubella. It can also call to congenital ocular defects such as nuclear cataract most commonly, and it can also lead to salt and pepper retinopathy. Okay, congenital heart disease. This was asked during our exams. What is the most common congenital heart defect caused by rubella? It is patent ductus arteriosus. It can also lead to ASD, VSD, and pulmonary artery stenosis, but most commonly it leads to patent ductus arteriosus. It can also lead to microcephaly and mental retardation. Uh, in torch infections, toxoplasmosis can also lead to this. Systemic intrauterine growth restriction is also present. Blueberry muffin rash when the baby is born. These are all the components of congenital rubella syndrome. Blueberry muffin syndrome or rash. What is the difference between them? Blueberry muffin rash is basically this type of characteristic typical rash which is caused by thrombocytopenia. Okay, when there is only rash because of thrombocytopenia, this is called blueberry muffin rash. But when there is rash, thrombocytopenia, along with intrauterine growth restriction and rubella infection, it is called blueberry muffin syndrome. Got my point? When there is intrauterine growth restriction or congenital malformations, it's called blueberry muffin syndrome. When there is no intrauterine growth restriction or any congenital malformation, it's called blueberry muffin syndrome. Congenital rubella syndrome has a you can say clinical significance of nuclear cataract. So let me briefly explain to you how many types of cataracts are there. There are, just imagine if this is your lens, this is the anterior side of this lens, and this is the posterior side of this lens, and these are the periphery of the lens, and this is the central area of that lens. So when the only periphery of that lens is all only periphery is involved, it is called cortical lens, or you can say peripheral cataract. When the central area of this lens is involved, it's called nucleus, or you can nuclear cataract. When the posterior aspect of this lens is involved, it's called posterior subcapsular cataract. In rubella, this nuclear cataract is usually present. If a mother got rubella during the pregnancy, the mother is usually asymptomatic. In fact, only half of the mothers who got rubella are symptomatic, and the symptoms which are present are mild fever along with macular papular rash and face syndrome. But for baby, it is a disaster. There will be a teratogenicity for mothers for baby. chances of vertical transmission. What is a vertical transmission? When the disease is transmitted from mother to baby during the pregnancy or during the delivery, it's called vertical transmission. If mother got rubella during the first trimester, there will be a 90% chance of vertical transmissions. Along with the baby can get congenital rubella syndrome. If the mother got rubella during the second trimester, there will be a 50% chance of vertical transmission, and there will be no congenital rubella syndrome in second trimester. There will be only sensory neural hearing defect. And if mother got rubella after 20 weeks of gestation, there will be only 25% chance of vertical transmission. Radiology: if you x-ray the long bones of a baby, there will be a ciliary stalk appearance. What this means that if you look closely in this x-ray, you will find there will be a ciliary striations at the end of long bones. If you could see it, there will be a close resemblance to this, and this is present in rubella. Management of rubella. So diagnosis usually made by antibody testing. मैं ये थोड़ा सा आपको उर्दू में समझा दूं तो क्योंकि ये जो चीज़ है ना थोड़ी सी ऐसी है कि आपको एक न्यू कॉन्सेप्ट है जो कि आई थिंक इंग्लिश में समझना ज़्यादा मुश्किल हो जाता है. ठीक है, रुबेला जो है ना आपने टेस्ट कैसे करना है. आईजीएम आपको पता होता है कि भाई आईजीएम जो है 5 डेज तक रहता है. ठीक है जी, 5 डेज तक आईजीएम रहता है. आईजीएम जो होता है उसकी शेप कुछ इस किस्म की होती है. ठीक है जी, ये जो तकरीबन यूँ समझेंगे ड्राइंग के लिए सॉरी, लेकिन कुछ इस किस्म की शेप होती है आईजीएम की. अब आईजीएम जो होता है वो यूजुअली एक्यूट इन्फेक्शन में होता है और 14 दिन के बाद जो है वो आईजीजी के अंदर कन्वर्जन हो जाती है. आईजीजी जो होती है वो इस किस्म की होती है. ठीक है, अब इसमें एक चीज़ इंपॉर्टेंट है. अगर आपने चेक करना है एक्यूट इन्फेक्शन, आपने आईजीएम चेक कर लिया, लेकिन आपने चेक करना है भाई अब एक्यूट इन्फेक्शन से ऊपर चला गया. अगर मिसाल के तौर पे आपको जो पेशेंट आ रहा है वो आपके पास आ रहा है फॉर एग्जांपल 8th डे पे, 8th डे के ऊपर आईजीएम खत्म हो जाती है. आईजीजी जो है वो ये भी समझ आईजीजी इस चीज़ को भी बता रही होती है कि भाई कोई लॉन्ग इन्फेक्शन है. आईजीजी इस चीज़ को भी बता रही होती है कि भाई पास में वैक्सीनेशन हुई है. मीन्स के आईजीजी जब प्रेजेंट होगी ना रुबेला के अगेंस्ट, तो वो 3 चीज़ें मैटर कर सकती है. इम्यूनिटी है, या फिर क्रॉनिक इन्फेक्शन है, या फिर कोई वैक्सीन जो है ना वो पास्ट इन्फेक्शन हुआ था. तो ये तीनों चीज़ों को बता सकता है. ठीक है, तो आईजीजी आप कैसे कंफर्म करोगे भाई इसको जो है वो रिसेंट इन्फेक्शन है? आप चेक करोगे इसकी हाई एविडिटी एंटीबॉडीज. अब हाई एविडिटी एंटीबॉडीज क्या होती हैं? हाई एविडिटी एंटीबॉडीज होती हैं, अब एफिनिटी और एविडिटी का आपको छोटा सा कॉन्सेप्ट बताता हूँ. ठीक है, एविडिटी जो है वो अब यहाँ पे कितने हमारे पास जो है वो एंटीबॉडी के रिसेप्टर्स हैं. ठीक है, आप देखें 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. ठीक है, इसी तरह जो आईजीजी है इसके अंदर कितने हैं 1 और 2. अब इसकी जो एफिनिटी है ना, या ये कितनी कशिश के साथ अपने रिसेप्टर से ज्वाइन करेगा, उस कशिश को कहते हैं एफिनिटी. लेकिन एक एंटीबॉडी के अंदर जितने ये स्मॉल सेट्स होते हैं, ठीक है, ये टोटल नंबर ऑफ अमाउंट को जब हम सम कर देते हैं तो ये एविडिटी होती है. अब यहाँ पे ये होता है कि जो एंटीबॉडीज होती हैं वो कुछ टाइम बाद जो अपनी एफिनिटी होती है, या जो उनका जो या सादा ज़ुबान में जो मखनातीस होता है, जो मैग्नेट होता है, वो अपनी मैग्नेटिज्म जो होता है वो वक्त के साथ साथ लूज़ करना स्टार्ट कर देता है. ठीक है, तो फिर आप चेक करते हो हाई एविडिटी एंटीबॉडीज़ के लिए, ठीक है, कि उनकी जो मखनातीसी वो एंटीबॉडीज जिनकी अभी भी मखनातीसी या मैग्नेटिज्म जो है वो बड़ा सॉलिड है. तो जिन एंटीबॉडीज का मैग्नेटिज्म सॉलिड है, जिनकी अट्रैक्शन सॉलिड है, इट मीन्स कि वो बिल्कुल रीसेंट है. तो ये जो होती है चीज़ आपको बता देती है कि रीसेंट 2 मंथ्स के अंदर कोई इन्फेक्शन हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है. ठीक है, ये बुक के अंदर नहीं था, मैंने छोटा सा पॉइंट एक्स्ट्रा बताया आपको. ठीक है, एग्जाम के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है तमाम पॉइंट्स, जस्ट कॉन्सेप्ट देने के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि बाज़ बात पूछ लेते हैं, कोई पता नहीं चलता उसकी में. Let's talk about prevention. Prevention is very simple. You can prevent rubella by giving a vaccine. The vaccine is usually in the form of MMR or measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, but rubella alone vaccine is also present. All women of childbearing age should be tested for rubella and vaccinated if found seronegative. Seronegative, which means she was never exposed to rubella or she was never vaccinated for rubella, or which means she has no immunity and she can get rubella during the pregnancy, which can lead to complications. So all women of childbearing age should be tested for rubella. Vaccine is live attenuated virus. So live attenuated virus, which means you cannot give it in pregnancy. And MMR or rubella vaccine usually mixed with distilled water and then injected subcutaneously. It is given at 9 months, 15 months, and 4 to 6 years after the baby is born. And the point is, which is very important for MCQs, it is sometimes asked, can you give MMR vaccine, or there will be a scenario regarding rubella case, and you will be given a choice. Can you vaccinate a mother during a pregnancy? You cannot. You cannot vaccinate a mother during a pregnancy, and even 1 month before pregnancy. You cannot. You simply cannot, because it's a live attenuated virus. If you give this vaccine, you are giving rubella to the mother consciously. Treatment is very simple. Treatment usually supportive. Whatever the symptom is, you are going to treat it. So this is a you can say a picture showing the test, IgG test of rubella. So you are going to check for this. This is the result, and these are the reference ranges. If it is positive, which means she was exposed, or you can say she was immune, or she was vaccinated, whatever the things are, which means antibodies are present, so you are not going to give anything, and which means the pregnancy is safe. But if the result are below the reference points, which means it is negative, which means mother has no protection against rubella, and this is called zero negative. Okay, so I think by that we conclude this lecture.